When it comes to the justice system, the key word that we have to remember that's important in our justice system is just that justice. It's not about the innocence system, it's not about the guilt system, it's about justice. And how do we get to justice? How do we determine innocence or guilt of an individual? We go through a process. That process is called finding justice. That's where arguments are made. That's where attorneys argue their side of the case. And eventually, a jury or a judge makes a decision as to whether or not the person in question is innocent or guilty. But that process is the important part. We can't just wave over that part because we want to see one person be found guilty because the evidence is there and they're clearly guilty as sin, or because they're so innocent and the evidence totally points when we want it to go there. No, we have to go through the process. And if that process is damaged, if that process is not on the up and up, if there's some improprieties in that process, you cannot get to justice. If you're making a cake, for example, or insert recipe here, you have to follow the directions. You have to put the correct ingredients into that cake for it to come out correctly. If you mix up your sugar and your salt and you add far more salt than you should, may you get a cake at the end of the day that looks like a cake, resembles a cake on an Instagram picture? Maybe. But if you taste that cake and there's something wrong with that cake because, oh God, this recipe, somebody put salt in here and they should have put sugar. Now, whether it was an accident or it was done on purpose, the end result is something that's not quite the cake it should be. Nobody's going to eat that cake. You got to go back and correct the recipe. And you may know, hey, if I put sugar in, it's gonna come out. It'll be good. It'll just taste right now. It may look the same, but it will come out correctly. That's how you go back and correct something. Same with our justice system. If there's something that's baked into a decision, baked into a verdict, and maybe the ingredient that was baked in shouldn't have been there and we didn't realize it till after the fact, you got to go back and bake that cake again. And if that person is innocent or guilty, well, that's how our justice system is set up. It's to find innocence or guilt. And if that one ingredient was flawed and we need to put the right one in, then we should be getting the same result. Sometimes you don't. But oftentimes you do. It's the process that's important. The question is, did Alex Murdaugh, someone who I despise, I think most of us despise, if at the very least for the financial crimes and the improprieties that he so blatantly rained down without regard for his friends or his family in his decision-making processes, that makes him a despicable human being right there, the lives he destroyed. And if he killed his wife and son, which he's been convicted of doing, and I think all the evidence points to, at the very least, he knew what was going on, he should be in jail for the rest of his life, in prison for the rest of his life. But if something in that process was wrong, like, oh, say a juror was influenced by a tricky clerk of court who can't seem to keep her story straight on anything, then we need to go back and look at how that cake was baked, how we got to that decision of Alex Murdaugh being guilty. And if he is guilty, we found guilty again. But what happened? What was the bad ingredient in that cake? Was it Becky Hill? Well, a judge just the other day said, well, you know, even though the ingredient's bad, cake still turned out. Let's move on. Move it to another appellate court. That's not recognizing that justice was not served. That's not looking at your own system and going, shoot, we certainly didn't want this ingredient in this cake, but this ingredient got in this cake. We need to correct this for the sake of our system, for the sake of doing this right, not just putting out this cake because it looks like a cake Kind of tastes like a cake, kind of smells like a cake, but it's not quite the cake we thought it should be at all. Maybe we should go back and do this right. That didn't happen. The judge said no. Now, I don't want necessarily another Alex Murdaugh trial. As much as I would find it entertaining, that's not the point of a trial. The point of that is to find justice and to do it correctly, to bake that cake the right way, which I'm confident would be done. Why don't they want to do it, though? Why the decision of one person to say, well, even though we have somebody here that says, I put the wrong ingredients in, or this person poured the wrong ingredients on me, and because of that, my decision was influenced, and we're still ignoring that? We're still saying, even though you say you were influenced blatantly, and that this person said these things to you, Becky Hill came in and tried to influence your decision, and it did influence your decision, we're still saying that there shouldn't be another trial? That this cake shouldn't go back to the bakery and we should check this out again and just bake it the right way? That I don't understand. That, to me, is a miscarriage of justice. Not because I want Alex Murdaugh to get a new trial or because I think he's innocent, but because our system broke down, because it's run by human beings who are flawed. It was admitted to, and we still said, nah, oh well. Should Alex Murdaugh have gotten a new trial? I'm still up for debate, and it's a very real possibility that he could, as this goes to another appellate court down the road. But shouldn't we have just handled this right the first time, instead of punting it down the road or not taking responsibility or accepting the reality that there were improprieties here and let's go back to the bakery? Tell me what you think in the comments. I'm on Team Justice. Not guilt, not innocent, just Team Justice. Let's do this the right way. And then we'll get the right result.